My name reached me before I even entered the meeting room. Olivia's group just got fortunate. That's all this signifies. The arrogant pronouncements drifted through the transparent barrier. I paused, my heart accelerating. The portfolio I held seemed to gain weight. She did land the deal, of course, but frankly, she's merely a mid-level administrator with a Liberty Community College education. We can't jeopardize the corporation's destiny on individuals of her caliber. That voice belonged to Brandon Miller, our recently appointed Chief Growth Officer, fresh from his Sterling University MBA, despite having no genuine client interaction experience. For a Leo like him, reputation often trumps real contribution. I drew a slow, deliberate breath and pushed the door open. Both men turned, Brandon in his opulent suit, a manufactured smile plastered on his face, and Ethan Thorne, our CEO, whose expression briefly faltered upon seeing me. "Olivia," Ethan remarked, straightening his tie as if nothing had occurred. "Impeccable timing." Brandon recovered swiftly. "Wonderful news. We were just discussing your $80 million transaction with Summit Solutions, Inc. Truly commendable work." I maintained a neutral facade. "Thank you. I'll have the signed documents on your desk by Monday." Ethan offered a tight nod. "Excellent. In fact, that's precisely why we requested your presence." I took a seat, meticulously arranging my folder before me. Ethan leaned forward, clasping his hands on the dark wooden table. "Firstly, congratulations. You've secured the largest contract in the company's annals." "Indeed," Brandon interjected smoothly, "and that triumph has clarified the caliber of clients we aim to pursue going forward. Fortune 500 corporations, international portfolios, which means," he offered a feigned apologetic smirk, "we require a leadership collective that mirrors that level of distinction." I gazed at him. "What exactly are you implying?" Ethan sighed, his gaze briefly darting to the framed diploma on the wall behind me. My degree from Liberty Community College, the one I'd earned while juggling 2 jobs and single-handedly raising my son. "Olivia," Ethan said softly, "we've opted to disband the Strategic Development Department, effective immediately." The words struck harder than anticipated. "You're dissolving my department?" "You've laid exceptional groundwork," Brandon continued seamlessly, "but to attract high-profile clients, we need leaders with elite credentials, Ivy League global consulting expertise." My face remained impassive, but internally, something fractured and solidified. 6 years. 6 years of cultivating this company's client base from scratch. 6 years of travel, sacrificing holidays, meeting targets they deemed impossible. Now I was being discarded like a temporary intern. I looked at Ethan. "So, this is your gratitude for securing an $80 million deal?" He shifted in his seat. "It's not personal, Olivia. It's strategy. We're reorganizing for expansion." I offered them both a polite smile. "Of course. Well, thank you for the opportunity." Brandon appeared surprised. He had anticipated a confrontation, perhaps even tears. I gave him nothing. I shook Ethan's hand, steady and firm. "I wish you both nothing but the best." And I meant it because I already knew something they didn't. Summit Solutions Inc. CEO, Stella Dawson, the woman who had personally authorized the $80 million agreement, wasn't just a client, she was a dear friend. What Brandon and Ethan, the classic Libra swayed by appearances, didn't comprehend was that I hadn't secured Summit Solutions by presenting glossy strategy decks or name-dropping Harvard. I'd secured them by resolving a $20 million logistics conundrum no other firm had dared touch. By appearing at their facilities, by collaborating with their operations teams on weekends, by demonstrating that I genuinely cared about their enterprise as much as they did. And Stella, a pragmatic Virgo, cared nothing for Ivy League diplomas. She cared about tangible outcomes. As I exited the meeting room, my phone vibrated. A text from Stella. "Looking forward to seeing you Monday. Drinks afterward." I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely." Brandon's voice echoed in my mind. "We want high-caliber graduates." I passed the reception, past the interns who barely glanced up. Let them have their restructuring, because on Monday in that client discussion, they'd discover precisely what transpires when you prioritize pedigree over performance. and I couldn't wait. Monday morning, 9 a.m., I sat in a secluded corner of the Daily Grind Cafe, 2 blocks from my former office, my laptop open, a fresh coffee steaming beside me. I wasn't in the boardroom, I wasn't even on company time, but I knew precisely what was unfolding downtown. At that very moment, Ethan Thorne and Brandon Miller were extending a welcome to Stella Dawson, CEO of Summit Solutions, Inc., into the executive conference room for what was slated to be the official signing of the largest contract in the company's history. I'd rehearsed this scenario all weekend, not with bitterness, but with a strange clinical detachment. Would they falter over my absence? Would they fabricate a story? Or would they assume, as men like Brandon always did, that I was easily replaceable? At 9:15 a.m., my phone vibrated. "Stella, you're running late," her text read, followed by a winking emoji. I smiled. "Not attending. We'll catch up later." 3 dots appeared. Then her reply arrived. "Excuse me." I set my phone down, my heart quickening, but not from apprehension. This wasn't merely business. This was a masterclass in reality. At 9:23 a.m., a call came through. Marcus, one of my former team members. I answered quietly. "Morning, Marcus." He didn't even say hello. "Olivia, what on earth did you do?" I stirred my coffee calmly. "What happened?" "I'm standing outside the boardroom. It's pure chaos." His voice lowered. "Stella walked in, asked for you. Ethan started explaining you'd moved on and the department was being reorganized. Brandon tried to chime in with some spiel about leadership transitions." I remained silent, waiting. "Stella cut them off," Marcus continued. "She said, and I quote, 'If Olivia's not leading this account, we're walking.'" I couldn't suppress a small, satisfied smile. And she got up, just stood up, shook hands, and told them to call her when they were serious about doing business. I let out a low breath. That sounds about right. "Olivia, they look like they've been hit by a truck. Brandon's face is—" Marcus let out a short laugh. "I wish you could see it." "I don't need to," I replied, standing and gathering my belongings. "They've made their choices." I ended the call feeling lighter than I had in months, because the truth was straightforward. Ethan and Brandon had played a perilous game, gambling that clients would fall for a flashy resume over proven trust, and they'd lost. By 10 a.m., the second call came in, this time Ethan. I let it ring twice before answering. "Ethan?" "Olivia." His voice was strained, overly cordial. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding." I smiled as I walked toward my car. "Is that so?" "Yes. Look, there's no easy way to convey this. We acted hastily last week. We truly value your contributions. We want you back to oversee the Summit Solutions account." I unlocked my car door, leaning against it. "I see. We'd be delighted to discuss a revised compensation package, a leadership position, a title upgrade." I let the silence linger, allowing him to squirm. "Olivia, please." His voice cracked slightly. That please nearly broke me. Not because I pitied him, but because it confirmed everything I'd suspected. They hadn't respected me. They'd used me until I became inconvenient. And now that the deal was jeopardized, I was suddenly valuable again. I exhaled slowly. "Ethan, I appreciate the call. I truly do, but I'm not coming back." A stunned pause. "Olivia, this is $80 million on the line." "No, Ethan, it's my integrity on the line." He began to speak, but I ended the call before he could finish. I slid into the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vindictive. I was done. I'd spent 6 years pouring everything into a company that viewed me as a placeholder, a stepping stone for someone more polished, more connected, more Ivy League. And the moment I became inconvenient, they erased me. That wasn't a company I'd fight to preserve. The real power, the only power worth possessing, was knowing your worth and refusing to compromise it. As I drove away, my phone vibrated again, this time a text from Stella. "Lunch?" I typed back, "Absolutely, my treat." And with that, I left Ethan, Brandon, and their restructuring behind for good. Tuesday morning, 8:45 a.m. I sat across from Stella Dawson in a sunlit corner booth at Willow Creek Bistro, the kind of establishment downtown executives favored for off-the-record conversations. She stirred her tea, observing me with those keen eyes that rarely missed a detail. "So, you're officially out?" she inquired, her tone casual, but her meaning direct. I nodded, sipping my coffee. "As of Friday, reorganized out of a job by Monday morning." Stella shook her head, a soft chuckle escaping her. I knew Ethan could be arrogant, but I didn't realize he was suicidal. I smiled, but there was a weight in my chest I couldn't dislodge. "I'm not better." "You should be." I met her gaze. "I'm not. I'm done expending energy on people who don't value it." She leaned back, folding her arms. "That's precisely why I want to extend an offer to you." I raised an eyebrow. "An offer?" She leaned in slightly. "I'm not just the CEO of Summit Solutions. I also serve on the advisory board for Grant & Sterling Logistics, one of the fastest-growing logistics tech firms in the country. We're expanding aggressively. They've been seeking a business development director for months." I blinked. "I know of them." "Solid reputation, technologically forward, and client-focused," Stella added. "Exactly your approach." I hesitated, setting my cup down. "You want me to interview?" "I want you to have a conversation," she corrected, "with their CEO, Noah Grant. I've already told him about you. He's interested. Very interested." I wasn't sure what surprised me more, that Stella had arranged this without asking, or that I didn't feel even a flicker of hesitation. "You're serious?" I asked. Stella smiled. "I'm dead serious. And if you end up there, let's just say Summit Solutions is always seeking dependable partners." My heart thumped quietly. "You'd move the deal?" She shrugged, sipping her tea. "We signed nothing, and frankly, I'm not about to invest $80 million with a company that treats individuals like you the way they did. Integrity matters to me." I met her eyes. "It matters to me too." For the first time in days, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Not a rebound proposition, not a lifeline, but an opportunity. Real. Earned. By noon, I was seated across from Noah Grant in his minimalist office. Sleek, modern, no mahogany conference tables in sight. Noah was in his mid-40s, dressed in a crisp button-down, no tie, sleeves rolled. He greeted me with a firm handshake and none of the corporate pleasantries I'd grown accustomed to. "Stella thinks highly of you," he stated, getting straight to the point. "And Stella, a pragmatic Scorpio, doesn't dispense praise lightly." I smiled. "She's a tough one." "Precisely why I called this meeting." He leaned back in his chair. "I've reviewed your work with Summit Solutions and other clients. You build relationships, not just contracts." "That's the only way they endure," I replied. Noah nodded slowly. "That's uncommon, and it's precisely what we need." I waited, allowing him to lead. "We've expanded by 60% in the last 2 years, but we're prepared for the next leap, and that necessitates someone who comprehends both business development and client loyalty, someone who doesn't merely chase figures." I folded my hands. "And you believe that's me?" He smiled. "I know that's you." There it was. Director, no hedging, and no inquiries about where I attended school. "What would the role entail?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Director of Business Development, reporting directly to me. Full autonomy to construct your strategy and your team. We'll support you and remain out of your way." I felt my pulse quicken. "Compensation?" He handed me a folder. Inside, a detailed offer letter. Base salary, higher than anything I'd earned before. Bonus structure, aggressive but equitable. Equity, substantial. I read through it twice, my heart thudding louder with every line. "I won't insult you by requesting an immediate answer," Noah said, "but I hope you'll consider it." I closed the folder gently. "I don't need time." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "I'm in." Noah smiled and extended his hand. "Welcome aboard, Olivia." As we shook hands, I felt it. Something I hadn't felt at Vortex Dynamics in years. Respect. I walked out of that office, not with a job offer, but with a new beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead. My first official day at Grant & Sterling Logistics was nothing like my old first days at Vortex Dynamics.
No formal HR tour, no laminated employee handbook, no whispered comments about where I went to school. Just a simple welcome from Noah, a firm handshake, and a clear directive: do what you do best. And I did. I spent the first week meeting every department head, not in scheduled meetings, but at their desks, in their spaces. I listened more than I spoke, asked questions no one else seemed to ask about process bottlenecks, client frustrations, internal gaps. By the second week, I had my strategy drafted. Not a flashy 100-slide presentation, just a focused plan built on one conviction I'd held since the day I started in business. Clients don't buy products, they buy people. I pitched Noah the concept of a client-first division, small, agile teams designed around long-term partnerships, not short-term gains. He barely glanced at the numbers before nodding. Build it. So I did, and the first person I called was Marcus. He answered on the first ring. Olivia. I smiled. Ever considered a change? The silence on the other end lasted only 2 seconds. When do I start? Marcus joined the following Monday. By the end of the month, 2 more former colleagues followed, people I'd trusted at Vortex Dynamics who, like me, had grown weary of being overlooked in favor of pedigrees and politics. We weren't poaching, we were constructing something superior. By month 3, my team had secured 3 major contracts, including a $25 million deal that had been in Vortex Dynamics pipeline for over a year, but never closed. Stella made good on her word too. Summit Solutions Inc. officially partnered with Grant & Sterling Logistics, transferring their $80 million deal to us. That was the moment everything changed. Word travels swiftly in this industry. Within weeks, clients I hadn't spoken to in years started reaching out. Old contacts from conferences, industry partners I'd built quiet relationships with. And one by one, they asked me the same question. Why Grant & Sterling Logistics? I gave them the honest answer. Because here, results matter more than resumes. Because here, client trust isn't a buzzword. Because here, talent isn't defined by where you earned your degree. I didn't disparage Vortex Dynamics. I didn't have to.
The facts spoke louder than anything I could have articulated. By month 6, Grant & Sterling Logistics' market share had grown by nearly 40%. We weren't just landing new clients. We were quietly taking Vortex Dynamics. I never intended it as retribution, but in the business world, success often resonates louder than revenge ever could. One afternoon, as I concluded a client call, Marcus walked into my office, a glass-walled space that overlooked downtown Austin. Simple, but mine. He set a printed report on my desk. You might want to see this. I glanced down. The headline made me pause. Vortex Dynamics reports second consecutive quarter of declining revenue. I skimmed the article. Summit Solutions gone. 2 key clients signed with competitors. Stock down 25%. Internal restructuring rumored. I leaned back in my chair, tapping the page lightly. This was never about bringing them down, I said quietly. Marcus gave a small nod. No, but it turns out treating good people as disposable has consequences. I met his eyes. It always does. That afternoon, my phone vibrated again, an unfamiliar number. I hesitated before answering. Olivia, it's Ethan. His voice was flat, strained. I leaned back in my chair. Didn't expect this call. A long pause. I wanted to check in, see how things are going. I almost laughed. They're going well, Ethan, very well. He cleared his throat. I won't take up your time. Just, if you ever want to have a conversation, I'd be open to it. I let the silence stretch before replying. Thank you, but I think we're on very different paths now. I ended the call gently but firmly, because sometimes the most powerful answer isn't anger, it's moving on. That night, I walked into my apartment, dropped my keys on the counter, and sat down with a glass of wine. I wasn't the same woman who'd been dismissed 6 months earlier. I wasn't chasing respect. I had built it on my terms. And I finally understood something I wished I'd learned years ago. When people show you what they value, believe them. Then choose to value yourself more. 3 months later, I stood in front of a glass wall at the National Supply Chain Forum in New York City, watching the city skyline blur beneath a soft spring rain. The conference was packed. Industry leaders, rising startups, investors. Grant and Sterling Logistics wasn't just attending this year, we were headlining, and I was delivering the keynote. When Noah first suggested it, I almost laughed. Me, speaking in front of 1,000 executives? But then I realized, why not me? I wasn't there because of a fancy diploma or a corporate pedigree. I was there because our client portfolio had tripled in under a year, because we'd closed deals others said were impossible, because our retention rate was nearly perfect. That morning, I stepped on stage, heart pounding but steady. I spoke about client trust, about long-term partnerships, about how results outlast resumes. And when I walked off, the applause was genuine. So were the conversations that followed. By noon, I had handshakes and dinner invitations from companies I'd once only dreamed of collaborating with, including some former Vortex Dynamics clients. And then I saw him, Ethan Thorne. He stood by the registration desk, scanning the crowd like a man searching for an escape route. I almost walked past, but then his eyes met mine. He approached slower than I remembered him ever walking. Olivia. Ethan. I kept my voice even, professional. He offered a small, tight smile. You were impressive this morning. Thank you. A pause. He shifted awkwardly. I wanted to reach out sooner. I nodded but didn't elaborate. He exhaled, looking down at his hands. Vortex Dynamics isn't in a good place. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. We lost 3 major accounts this quarter. Brandon's gone. The board requested his resignation after the Summit Solutions fallout. I met his eyes. And you? A flicker of something, regret, exhaustion, crossed his face. I'm still standing, barely. The board's considering options. I tilted my head. Options like restructuring? Options like selling. His voice dropped lower. We're looking for a merger partner or a buyer. For a moment, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Not for the company, for the people inside it. The ones who worked hard, the ones who stayed loyal, the ones who, like me, had been dismissed when they became inconvenient. I see, I said quietly. Ethan straightened. I came to ask if you'd consider coming back. I blinked. You're serious? He nodded. We need leadership, credibility. Clients trust you. I stared at him for a long moment. 6 months ago, I would have dreamed of hearing those words. Now they felt hollow. You didn't value me when it mattered, I said evenly. Why now? He swallowed hard. Because I was wrong. For the first time since we met, his voice held no arrogance. I was wrong about you, about what truly drives this business, and I'm asking as a last chance for Vortex Dynamics. Help us. I didn't respond right away. I wasn't trying to punish him. I just knew my answer wasn't simple. Ethan, I said finally, it's not personal, but I'm exactly where I want to be. His shoulders slumped just a fraction. I hope you figure it out, I added, for your team's sake. He gave a slow nod. So do I. As he turned to leave, I stopped him. For what it's worth, I hope this humbles you, and I hope it makes you a better leader than you were to me. He looked back, something almost like gratitude flickering in his eyes. I think it already has, he said softly. And then he was gone. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty space where he'd been. That wasn't how I imagined this would end. But maybe that was the point. It wasn't about watching him fail. It was about knowing I didn't need his approval. I'd built something better, and this time I wasn't leaving it behind. 3 months later, I stood in the glass-walled conference room of Grant and Sterling Logistics headquarters overlooking the skyline of Austin. My team, Marcus, Stella, and Noah, sat around the table reviewing the final figures for the quarter. Our growth had exceeded every projection. We didn't just meet targets, we shattered them. Summit Solutions deal was thriving. Our client retention rate hit an all-time high. And Vortex Dynamics? They'd been acquired in a quiet, desperate merger by a private equity firm. I hadn't heard from Ethan again, but I didn't need to. I wasn't chasing closure anymore. This meeting wasn't about him. It was about us. Noah leaned forward. Olivia, when you joined, I knew you'd bring results, but this, he shook his head, almost smiling. You've transformed how we conduct business. Marcus grinned, and how we treat people. I glanced around the table at the people I'd come to respect and who respected me back. It wasn't about titles anymore. It was about impact. When the meeting ended, Noah caught me before I left. "Walk with me?" he asked. We strolled through the quiet hallway, past open workspaces, buzzing with focused energy. Noah stopped near the balcony, folding his arms. "I wanted to say thank you." I raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For betting on us. For betting on yourself." I smiled. "You gave me the freedom to do what I do best." He nodded, then turned slightly. "The board met this morning. We're restructuring, expanding, and we want you to take on a bigger role." I met his eyes. "Bigger how?" "Chief Commercial Officer, reporting directly to me. Full authority over business development, client relations, and strategic partnerships." I stared at him, stunned. "Noah," he lifted a hand, "no pressure. You've earned this, every bit of it, and we want you to grow with us." For a long moment, I said nothing. Not because I doubted myself, but because I realized I wasn't chasing anyone's validation anymore. I'd built this on my terms, with my values, a true Capricorn's dedication. I nodded slowly. "I'm in." Noah smiled. "I knew you'd say that." We shook hands, and this time it felt right, because this wasn't a company using me to close a deal. This was a place that saw me as I was and valued it. That evening, as the office quieted and the city lights blinked on, I sat in my office reflecting on the last year. Everything I'd lost, everything I'd gained. I thought about Ethan and Vortex Dynamics, and how easy it would have been to remain bitter. But bitterness doesn't construct futures. I'd learned that the hard way. Instead, I chose growth. I chose to bet on the person I'd always been, the one they underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed, and I won. Marcus poked his head in. "We're heading out for drinks. You coming?" I smiled. Wouldn't miss it. As I grabbed my bag, my eyes caught the framed photo on my desk. A simple snapshot from our team's first client dinner. Laughter, casual clothes, no suits. A reminder of what truly mattered. Not power, not titles, not empty approval from the people who never truly saw you, but respect. Earned, given, shared. I left the office with my team, stepping into the warm evening air, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Free. The world hadn't changed. Corporate games still existed. Egos still ruled boardrooms. But I had changed. I'd learned that when people show you who they are, believe them. And when you show yourself what you're capable of, never forget it. Because the only approval you'll ever truly need is your own.